Welcome to the Expert Network Team podcast.
Listeners, welcome back to the Your Expert Team Network podcast. Got a full house here this afternoon. Just want to make sure that we introduce everyone who might be just listening to the podcast as opposed to viewing it on YouTube. It is available there on YouTube, but we've got a full house here today. To my right here in the house at A&I Financial, the headquarters of, is Carl Frank. Principal owner of A&I Financial.
Hi, Jeff. How are you, man?
Great to have you here today. Thank you very much for hosting me on this cold winter day. On the Western Slope, we got Nathan Merrill, representing Goodspeed in Merrill. Nathan, thanks for being here today.
Principal owner of a big mortgage.
Oh, yeah. Good. So you're in debt. You're one of those fools.
Yeah.
All right. Way to go.
Built my dream home, though, out here on the Western Slope, so it's all good.
All right, that's good. Awesome. Looking forward to seeing it sometime soon.
We'll come visit you someday, Nate.
Yeah, that'd be great.
On our way to mountain biking.
Yes. And without further ado, our guest on the Expert Team Network podcast today is Matt Quammen, good friend, acquaintance of mine. I would just say Matt is probably going to be the best at introducing himself, but the topic today and probably in one other podcast here down the road is going to be cyber liability. And so we don't claim to be experts really at a whole lot, but cyber certainly isn't one of those things. And so we bring in experts when it comes to things that we don't know much about.
For sure.
And that's Matt. So I've been working with Matt for quite a while here. He really has served our clients very, very well. In the services that his company brings to the marketplace to help really shore up cyber exposure and best practices when it comes to putting cyber risk at bay. And I'll have Matt kind of take it from here. But Matt comes to us from Sioux Falls, South Dakota today. And Matt, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
You got it. Appreciate it. Well, Matt, if you wouldn't mind just kicking us off a little bit, tell us a little bit about you. Also, Optimize Cyber, which is a company that you own along with your partner, and just an overview of kind of the services that you bring, and then maybe introduce the topic, which is going to be kind of personal cyber liability or personal cyber exposure here for this round. So Matt, take it away.
Absolutely. Thanks again for having me. Matt Quammen, Optimize Cyber. We are a cyber risk management firm. Basically what we do is we help organizations wrap their heads around cyber, manage, everything from their compliance to their day-to-day security operations, and mitigate exposure as much as we can. Then we work with folks like Jeff over at One Digital to help clients get the right coverage in place. But the reality is you can't insure away all of cyber risk. And even if you have insurance, not having an incident is always a beautiful day. Those are painful even if you do have insurance, though they are exponentially more painful if you don't have insurance. So talk to your broker today if you don't have coverage. So what do? We help people stand up security programs. We help people test their programs. I've been in technology the last 14 years, cybersecurity the last 7. And you guys mentioned that cybersecurity, cyber risk is not a native language or something you guys consider yourself experts in. That's fine. Honestly, in my opinion, it hasn't become a real risk to businesses or individuals until 8-9 years ago. So it's an emerging issue. People would dispute that, right? There's been a cybersecurity industry long before then, but where attacks got real, especially for mid-market and below organizations, is really 8 years ago. And furthermore, up until about 2021, you could get cyber insurance without any security. So a lot of risk managers were buying a cyber insurance policy and ignoring cyber risks on the prevention or proactive side. So it's a fast moving industry. My co-founder has been in this industry 22 years, if you count his time inside a bank as an IT director at a bank, which I certainly count. But 6 times he's taken teams out to DEF CON, and all 6 times they finished on the podium. That's like the world's biggest hacker convention, and has been helping everyone from, I don't know, a 2-person, 3-person manufacturing company in East Tennessee that's one of our clients, and all the way up to Fortune 20 large enterprise. So thrilled to have been able to partner up with him and be able to share some of the insights. And I know today we want to talk about individuals and what you need to do with your household, because especially for all the parents out there, I know we're all worried about kids and technology. You're worried about people stealing your money, and you're worried about bad things that can happen. So let's dive into those topics and see if we can help some people wrap their heads around what they need to do to protect their own assets.
Yeah, I'll launch out here if I can, because this is something I've had I'm sure each of us have had our own concerns about. But you have the usual firewalls and antivirus and what other sorts of software you put on your computer to protect the computer and protect from intrusion there. Is that a bigger risk, or is it the social engineering, the phishing, and the click here type of emails that people in your household might get that are the biggest exposure to risk? And like what's your approach to mitigating both the social engineering versus the technology side?
I'm much more concerned about the social engineering as a parent. Luckily, my kids are too young for this, but they'll get there someday soon. And there's real horror stories out there about what bad people are doing, sextortion type situations where they're inducing teenagers in a lot of cases to send like inappropriate photos to them, and then blackmailing individual teenagers to send money to criminal gangs. This has been exploding. Some guy got busted somewhere in Africa, and they found that I believe he had $100 million in cash in his house. So this is a pretty explosive one. We gotta lock it down for kids who are maybe not mature enough to understand, hey, I'm playing video games and somebody's chatting with me, says they're a 13-year-old girl. Well, that's not verified. That could be anybody, right? So either for young kids, disabling those chat functions and things like that. I was talking to a neighbor about this fairly recently, and disabling those chat functions on some of these video games, because there's a lot of social engineering that happens there. And then obviously we all know about social media, the dangers that can happen there. So preparing kids. I don't know that anyone has a foolproof system. I can tell you what my plan is, and my plan is to key log my kids' devices when they're old enough to have them. Not
what
from
does that mean?
By key log, Nate, I mean every button they click is logged, and we can go back and audit it and see it. The reason I don't think of this as an intrusion on their privacy, or certainly it's not my intention to do that. But they need to understand 2 things. A, we're here to protect them and to help them use technology responsibly. But B, help them understand that is being logged by somebody somewhere. If you wouldn't want your parents to see it, if you wouldn't want it on the front page of the New York Times, don't be posting it on social media, because effectively that is logged somewhere, and could come back to haunt you, either by people extorting you for money, or damaging your future. So I'm definitely, the number one thing is talk to your kids, train them, train elderly as well, because the same thing happens to elderly victims, people calling them, threatening their kids, threatening or grandkids,
Well, an example is I think it was my mother clicked on something and it downloaded something to her computer, and then it said, "Oh, and then someone approached her as a Microsoft something or the other and said, put in your bank information to pay, and we'll download the fix to this," or something like that. And she did that, and pretty quickly she realized it was the wrong idea, and so she had to shut down the bank account and all that sort of stuff. So I agree with you on the elderly, and I have similar concerns for my kids. But you said educate your kids. Are there programs or modules or things that can be purchased that would be a curriculum for family cyber security education, or is that a big vacuum?
Unfortunately, it's a big vacuum. There's not a lot of great training. There should be better. Wizer, Wizer, is a free cybersecurity training company. They talk more about like what I think you said it was your mother or mother-in-law who was scammed out of her banking information. They talk a lot more about those types of attacks than they do maybe the social media training. But we need to train on all fronts. So I wish there was a great repository I could send you to. I would check out Wizer, and if I think of anything else, I'll send it to you guys, and you guys can upload it to the put it in the chat of this episode.
Because as far as I'm aware, I mean, schools don't necessarily teach cyber. Schools don't really teach much of anything, but I won't go down that rabbit hole. But of essential life skills, things like how to properly engage with the internet and the World Wide Web, there just doesn't seem to be any meaningful training unless you get in a corporate organization that has something that is risk mitigating and risk management oriented.
Yeah, it drives me crazy because especially when you think of things like, body image issues, especially teenage girls. And I don't understand why they don't do this training, right? They need to understand that the models you see on Instagram that you're comparing yourself to. Well, she just had a full makeup team for 3 hours, and they did a photo shoot for 10 hours, and then they edited it, right? They touched it up. They did the, whatever they do to edit those photos. And now you see this picture and you go, and these teenage girls say, wow, I don't look like her. I'll never look like her. I'm not beautiful. Well, she doesn't look like that, right? So I don't understand why they don't do training of like, here's a candid photo of your favorite celebrity, right? What he or she looks like as a human. Here's what they look like on the internet once the marketing agencies have spent 40 hours adjusting this photo and perfecting this photo. So yeah.
Although I think my new iPhone 16 Pro has a Ryan Reynolds filter on it to make me look more like Ryan Reynolds. So
Yeah,
it's just a joke, but
well, it's working because you look just like him.
Yeah, way to go, Nate.
He's my. I'd like him to be my doppelganger, but anyway.
To go back to your other question about some of the technical controls and people installing malware and things like that, you're right. Home devices, I'm more worried on the social engineering side, but home devices are obviously very vulnerable. It actually becomes an attack vector for companies too, because they get onto your kids playing Fortnite at home, they get onto your home network, they get onto your corporate laptop. Never let your kids game on your corporate laptop would be another piece of advice, but that's one way they get into companies. I've seen those attacks. But the same stuff that you can apply to businesses, whether it's endpoint protection, right? Antivirus type software. I would look at somebody like ESET, which is fantastic. Komodo is fantastic, depending on the operating system you're using. But
what about VPNs?
VPNs are great. That's more for privacy and people not being able to ad track you and things like that. So I'm a big fan of VPNs, but they don't do a whole lot from a security standpoint of protecting your network. One thing that I liked that is a favorite of mine is setting up your home Wi-Fi so that only approved devices can log on. So that way you get an alert if anybody tries to connect to your network that's not, the 12 normal devices that are in your household. Maybe your kid has friends over, you let them on the network, or family over, you let them on the network, but you don't want it open to just somebody, your neighbors logging on, anybody in the neighborhood. Somebody pulls up in a van with a parabolic antenna and starts spying on your house and stealing bank credentials and things like that. So,
And that's even possible with like password security, or
absolutely, yeah.
they'd have to break that code somehow, correct? Or is there a backdoor into those sorts of things?
There's almost always a backdoor in around that router. Most people aren't keeping their home routers patched, and a lot of home routers are just not that secure to begin with. So password's not entirely enough. This is a big way that you can reduce that attack surface just by limiting who can log onto your network. So for securing at home, endpoint protection, ESET, Komodo, Microsoft Defender, SentinelOne, things like that. Configuring your network, get in touch with a security engineer, pay them $800 to do it one time and set this up and show you how to use it so nobody else can log on, to harden your network that way. And then configuring that home router, having an actual secure home router. Now let's talk about maybe the most important topic, and Carl, I think this will be most interesting for you, is what do we do from a financial perspective, right?
Right.
A
Yeah.
lot
If
of
something bad happens, how can we be protected? That's what I'm worried about. I mean, we're all vulnerable. We can all have kids that are going to make mistakes, or elderly people, or even ourselves might click a link in an email and we go, oh, shoot, it's too late. What did I do? What can I do now?
Well, make your kids spend cash. I'm a big believer in that because I think somebody has pointed out that if you spend cash, people are more likely to save because they can feel the pain of literally forking over their cash.
Yeah.
But then when it comes to their bank accounts, just like your home network, your bank account can be configured. Work with a regional credit union, regional bank, somebody that you can go in and have a relationship with, and set up the account with them. Turn off ACHs, turn off wires. There's no reason your teenager needs that. There's no reason elderly folks need that, largely. Another thing I like to do is set up notification. So when, Nate, when your mom's account tried to wire money out because she gave away her credentials, if you had these notifications set up, now you get a text message every time there's a debit or a credit on her account. So you can check those things for elderly folks. You can do that for young folks too. Some other things: don't leave all your money in one account. Leaving it in a checking is not the most useful, right? We go make some interest on your money and things like that. But it also becomes an attack vector if you've got 200 grand sitting in a bank account that's liquid and can go out the door any moment. They can go out the door any moment, right?
What about linking accounts though?
Big fan of linking accounts. So you can set up a checking and a savings where the money can move within 2 seconds if you need it. Set up a money market. Those are largely as liquid as anything else. But then also, if you've got in excess of 250 grand in liquid, you got to make sure that you're staying under the FDIC limits in case your bank ever has trouble. But you don't get reimbursed for that fraud if that money's gone. The FDIC is if the bank fails, not if you failed, right? Not if your money gets stolen. So I like to point people towards a banker or a financial advisor to say, let's make this money work for you. It'll also have the benefit of, like, let's say Carl's managing my money and it's illiquid for me, right? I can't touch it. So if somebody steals my credentials, they can't touch it. I have to call Carl. Maybe we set up a relationship where, hey, unless I come into the office, never take the money out of the brokerage account because this is money I want to leave and have more long-term.
I think that's a great idea for individuals and families. Absolutely. Always set it up. I call it small town security for big time criminals. Just make it more personal. I really like that.
Almost like private banking in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Matt, got this little thing in front of us. We all have one or two of these cell phones. Some of us do some minor banking transactions on apps, things like that. I know we've talked a little bit about, the home network, firewalls, so on and so forth. Anything in particular on our mobile devices that we should be concerned about, or anything that we can install onto those, or is it just common sense? What are your thoughts?
There are things you can install. Let me look one up quick. These iPhones, they're so handy. You can look up information.
I've heard that.
So as far as how concerned you should be, not a ton. Obviously it can happen. I mean, yeah, there's software out there where people can hijack your phone pretty easily, but it is quite controlled. And Apple, Google, they are incentivized to prevent that from happening. But a couple mobile device endpoint protection software pieces, Lookout, is one of them, spelled one word, Lookout. And then iVerify is another mobile device protection company. Always making sure that you have multi-factor authentication turned on for your personal email accounts, any account of yours. And definitely your bank accounts is critical. Maybe the most critical thing you can do. So probably should have mentioned that a long time ago on this podcast, but and just like we were talking about with teenagers, keep in mind these iPhone, your phone's being tracked, not even just nefarious people, but people who want to sell ads and things like that. They are tracking everything, and you got to be mindful of what you're doing with your phone. Make good choices.
Good rules for life.
Yeah, this is great.
We're only that
Fantastic.
simple.
I got one last question maybe before we land the plane on this particular topic around individual cyber safety and security. What about what's your thoughts about again, all the computers now that are in vehicles? We got a lot of our personal information tied to those now. Anything in particular there that you're seeing emerge right now that the driver or owner of some of this type of technology can make sure is in place? What any thoughts there, or is this kind of the new kind of horizon, new frontier as far as any type of cybersecurity as it relates to our vehicles?
Well, I'm going to warn Nate and tell him to go on mute before I start talking about this, because I have a feeling this will set him off. But cars, you want to talk about your iPhone collecting a lot of data? Cars are collecting more than anyone.
Like my 1987 Mercedes?
No,
not that one.
Driving old cars isn't going to be a solution forever, right? Because the new ones are going to be the old ones. They are tracking everything like you wouldn't believe. Where you go, they're listening in the cars. When you read these privacy policies that you have to sign off on when you buy or lease a new car, even a used car, because these systems have been around since at least 2015. The amount of data they're collecting and then selling to advertisers is shocking and horrifying. If any car companies out there are listening, there is a big market for people who don't want you tracking us and who don't want everything to be tech enabled where you sense the key. There was nothing wrong with the car key, okay? Let's go back to a key. Because what happens if your technology stops working? None of us can drive. Like, these cars, A, stop tracking us. It's ridiculous and horrible. B, if we can't use a car because your network is down, your technology gets breached, what kind of lawsuit is that going to be? It's going to be a massive class action lawsuit if people can't get to work. Ransomware attacks, average downtime's like 20 days. So if people can't drive their cars for 20 days, that ransom's going to be $1 billion that they're going to have to pay. And the class action lawsuit, who knows? But hopefully it's 100 billion, because there is no need for you guys to be stealing all of our data and invading people's privacy via our cars like this. So,
is there a way to opt out?
I don't think so. I've looked. Can't really opt out. You can limit some things. Honestly, we need more states to take action and establishing privacy Bill of Rights type things, where you as a resident of XYZ state can go and say, you're not allowed to watch us. So I hope some privacy related legislation comes down the pike. I don't think people have really addressed automakers in those yet, and they definitely need to.
Good point.
Fascinating and
It
terrifying.
is. Yeah, no doubt about
I
it.
had never
No doubt
thought
about it.
that.
Well, very good. Hopefully, our listeners have enjoyed this session. We each have obviously a lot of clients that are personal type profiles and personal consumers of technology and users of technology, and so this has been really, really helpful. Gosh, I'm just sitting here making a bunch of notes myself, and this has been really, really good, Matt. Thank you so much for joining us today, Matt. We sure appreciate the expertise that you have brought, and we'll look forward to connecting here in the future with cyber liability as it relates to our businesses, because obviously we do have a pretty good size listener base too that own businesses. So stay tuned for that one. And until then, make it a great day, and we'll see you soon.
Great, beautiful day.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed the discussion and the information we shared.
We hope you enjoy the information contained in today's podcast and find it useful.
We hope you will join us again next time as we explore new areas of interest to our listeners or current issues we believe are important to discuss.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe so you are notified when future episodes are released, and also share it with a friend that you think would benefit.
If you'd like to meet with a member of the Expert Network team or have a request for a special topic you'd like to have us discuss on the podcast, submit those requests to info@expertnetworkteam.com. That's info@expertnetworkteam.com.
Thank you for joining us, and have a great day.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. We want to remind you that listening to this podcast does not establish a client-professional relationship with any of the professional firms represented, including guests, nor does it constitute legal, investment, accounting, or other advice of a fiduciary nature. The views expressed are those of the professionals only.
Investment advisor services may be provided through A&I Wealth Management. Securities may be provided through Genios Wealth Management.